What's up, guys? Nuance Bro checking in, and today we're going to be talking about the border crisis and the Biden administration's contributory role in it. So in case you haven't heard, recently there has been a surge in migrants at the border. This includes just overall migrants and unaccompanied children arriving at our border, and it's created quite the crisis. In fact, if you look around, you can see tons of footage like this where migrants are lining up at the border, whether it's actual land crossings or having to go across the Rio Grande River. And there's tons of people trying to get into this country. And when people have asked these migrants as to why they're coming now, why now are they choosing to come over the border, this is what they say.
What do you want for your people?
What I want for my people, I just want patience and pace that we can get to the U.S. because they're having a new president. Where's Biden? He's going to help all of us. He's given us 100 days to get to the U.S. and give us legal mental paper so we can get a better life for our kids and family.
So this is some of the common messaging that you're seeing among the migrants. They have this idea that because Biden is president and some of the things he said during the campaign and what he's currently saying in the White House, they've interpreted that to mean that they're allowed to come to the United States. Some of them have this idea of this 100-day window, when originally this 100-day idea was that they were going to stop deportations for 100 days, which they took that to reasonably be that they could come into the country whenever they want, when in fact it dealt with people who are already here. Their messaging now has been, this is not the time to come right now. And the Biden administration has been putting out very confusing, conflicting language on a lot of these issues. They haven't made it crystal clear in their words or their actions that people cannot come here. That's why, for example, you're seeing migrants line up at the border doing photo ops wearing Biden's campaign logo on their t-shirt, with posters that say, "Biden, please let us in." Also, actions like this from the Biden administration where you have sections of wall left unfinished and purposely halted, even though it only requires a few more feet to be completed. Also, you have examples like this where you have members of Biden's National Security Council speaking in Spanish, sending mixed messages, first saying that the border is not closed, and then subsequently correcting herself, saying that the border is closed.
Así que yo creo que es muy importante subrayar el caso que la frontera no está cerrada y el viaje es muy peligroso y la gente realmente no debían llegar a los Estados Unidos en una manera irregular ahora.
¿Cómo desaniman a la gente para que no venga hoy, mañana, pasado mañana?
Bueno, primero reitero el mensaje que realmente no deben llegar ahora porque la frontera está cerrada.
Now, the reason we call this a crisis is because the numbers are getting pretty bad. Let's actually compare this to the 2019 peak that was experienced under the Trump administration, where everybody was up in arms about the number of unaccompanied minors being detained, kids in cages. You guys remember this rhetoric. Now it's much worse. As you can see here from the New York Times, the number of migrant children detained at border has tripled in 2 weeks. The number of unaccompanied migrant children detained along the southern border has tripled in the last 2 weeks to more than 3,250, filling facilities akin to jails as the Biden administration struggles to find room for them in shelters, according to documents obtained by the New York Times. More than 1,360 of the children have been detained beyond the 72 hours permitted by law before a child must be transferred to a shelter, according to one of the documents dated March 8th. The figures highlight the growing pressure on President Biden to address the increased number of people trying to cross the border in the belief that he will be more welcoming to them than former President Donald Trump. And we can see in this CNN graphic that right now they have 3,700 unaccompanied migrant children in custody compared to the 2019 peak of 2,600. And we can see if we go to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection website and go to the Southwest Land Border Encounters section, if we scroll down, we can see this orange line represents the worst year under President Trump, was the 2019 crisis. And currently, the 2021 line under President Biden is much worse than what we experienced at the time in 2019, where you had 76,545 encounters in February of 2019 compared to the over 100,000 enforcement encounters in February 2021 under President Biden. And when you filter the demographics to only account for the unaccompanied minors, you can see how it's steeply climbing and it looks like it's going to get a lot worse. And also notice the language that's being used. They no longer use this kids in cages terminology where people like AOC were crying at an empty road in order to virtue signal how bad they felt for the kids in cages, how they're calling them things like overflow facilities for migrant children. In fact, the Biden administration has been reopening and using these facilities that were used under the Trump administration and then subsequently closed after a lot of the criticism. And of course, despite all the metrics showing that this is probably the worst crisis that we've seen in well over a decade, the White House refuses to call this a crisis, with Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, saying, "I don't think we need to put new labels on what we have already conveyed is challenging." So what do I think the Biden administration could do to stem the tide of illegal immigrants flowing into this country at record numbers at the moment? Well, one, they could reinstitute some of the policies that existed under the Trump administration, such as the Remain in Mexico policy. Also, they could finish the wall, especially those sections, for example, that we showed you earlier that remain unfinished, continue the building of that wall. Walls work. Even the people working at the border will tell you that. And also, they could get very clear with their rhetoric. Instead of saying things like, right now is not the time to come, basically implying that eventually they're going to allow them in, not putting in 100-day deportation freezes, which subsequently got slapped down by the courts anyway, you could actually enforce the law and deport people who are not supposed to be here in the first place. Anyways, guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Social media links are in the description box below, as well as merch. Support us at nuancebro.com/join, and I'll see you next time, bro.